Well, good afternoon. It is Monday, the 29th of March, and I have just left Brown Mountain Creek. Really interesting bit of history there. Community of freed slaves back in the early 20th century, late 19th century. Lived right along the creek. Interesting little discussion of that on some signs nearby. So today I didn't get hiking until I think it was about 2. I'm gonna have to look at that. Yeah, let's just say 2 p.m. And I've sort of done that several times recently, in which I will finish a leg and then I will sort of sleep in. I did my laundry today, you know, just sort of the usual stuff, resupply for my cars, drive out to a new trailhead where I get there early afternoon, and then I put in, 10 or 12 miles in the afternoon, and then leave a segment for about 2 days. It just sort of worked out that way. So, sort of like about 50 miles where you can do 10 miles one day, 20 and 20. So, that ends up being even with a 0, if you took a 0 on the 7th day, that'd be a 100 mile week. So, yeah. Somebody asked me about the backstitch method, how it was going, and I think it's going well. I've met a couples who, when I describe it to them, they're like, hey, we should do this, and have absolutely nothing to do with COVID. It's just sort of like for convenience. So if you have 2 people and 2 cars, not a problem. You get them staged at the beginning and not a problem. And if you know you're going to be hiking with that person, that person isn't going to, sort of abandon you, which is the real downside with this, because now you're stuck with one car, like in the middle of nowhere, So anyway, today is supposed to be, as you can see, clear skies, bright sun. It's kind of warm. In the shadows, in the shade, it is a little cool, actually. Tomorrow is supposed to be very similar. Wednesday is supposed to be rain. 90% chance, like up to an inch. So, yeah, I'm gonna see how many miles I can get in today and tomorrow. So maybe Wednesday it isn't quite a slog, or quite as long a slog through the rain. And then in the extended forecast, it was crazy. It has a possibility of snow flurries. And I'm like, snow flurries? I'm so done with that. No, I'm not into that right now. So there we are. We'll see what happens. Another thing, so I like to do sort of math in my head. Sometimes it's really hard, when you're panting along here, but I like to force myself to do it. How many miles per hour am I going? How many miles per week average now? And how many steps to Katahdin, that kind of thing. And I happen to just do the math, and it turns out I'm actually more than halfway through Virginia right now. That happened, a day or 2 ago. So, yeah, it was kind of surprising. I've sort of psychologically, I was still sort of in southern Virginia. I'm still thinking more in terms of Damascus and Parisburg rather than Front Royal and Harper's Ferry. So it's interesting. And your attitude changes when you are thinking along those lines. There's some water. I might get some here. Okay. One further thought on psychology, and specifically with respect to mileage in Virginia. Virginia is called, people get what they call the Virginia blues. And it has nothing to do with how nice the AT is in Virginia, because it's pretty fabulous, actually. Really well maintained trails and shelters and everything, and wonderful sights and sort of landmarks that you go by, McAfee Knob and the Dragon's Tooth, and trail days down in Damascus. What people mean by the Virginia blues is that because Virginia is so long, they feel like they should be moving on to a different state. Georgia goes really fast, North Carolina and Tennessee, boom, boom, and then Virginia goes on. Well, I'm more than halfway through Virginia, and last fall I did Northern Virginia. So, I mean, if I count that, I don't know, maybe I will. We'll see what happens this year. But I mean, I only have, I don't know, 100 miles before Virginia's complete, counting what I did last fall. So anyway, moving on, talking about psychology. So a couple miles back, ran into a guy, started out 2018 to do a through hike. Had to get off, and I think he has most of the AT to do. His name is DFib still, but he's trying to fill it in this year. Had a really great conversation with him, and turns out he looked at my pack at one point where I have some of the names, because he was talking about how I won't get into it. I was pointing out some of the names, and he goes, "Oh, well, I know those people." So he said he met, not so much, just a day or two ago. He was coming into a hostel and not so much was leaving. And he's met Mr. Freeze, and he spent last night with Just a Farmer. So I'm like, wow, maybe I'm catching up to some of these people that I thought I probably would never see again. So I will probably see him again, because I'm at if I don't trip, I'm at the northern reach of my section this time, my lap, or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, maybe I'll see them the next time. Depends how long that next one is. So, I don't know where I'll start the next one after I leapfrog north. I have a little less than 2 miles to go to the shelter, and I'm supposed to have some good camping there up on top of, I think it's Punch Bowl. Reminds me of Hawaii.